Every small town has someone people never question, someone they trust with their lives. In Maplewood, that person was Dr. Harold Harris. He'd delivered babies, treated coughs, held hands during goodbyes. His grey hair and soft eyes gave comfort to everyone who entered his clinic. To most, he was more than a doctor. He was family. Walter Green, a retired postman in his 70s, trusted him completely. Walter had known Harris for years. The doctor was there when his wife passed away, brought soup when Walter broke his hip, and always said, "You're tougher than you look, old friend." So when Walter began feeling tired and dizzy, he didn't hesitate to visit the doctor he loved like a brother. "It's probably just age," Harris said kindly, pressing a stethoscope against Walter's chest. "But let's be careful. I'll run a few tests." His voice was calm, reassuring, the kind that could make fear vanish. Walter felt safe, almost grateful to be cared for. Days turned into weeks. Each visit brought new medicines, new injections, new bills. But Harris always smiled and said, "You're doing great. We're keeping it under control." Walter never doubted him, not once. Every appointment, he brought small gifts, a jar of honey, a newspaper clipping, fresh apples. Harris would chuckle and pat his shoulder. "You don't owe me a thing, Walter. Just stay healthy." Their friendship felt genuine, until one quiet afternoon, when Emily came home. Emily, Walter's daughter, hadn't visited in months. When she walked into the kitchen, she froze. The table was covered in medical papers, invoices, and bottles of pills. "Dad, what's all this?" she asked gently, picking up a receipt. "These injections, they cost hundreds of dollars." Walter smiled faintly. "It's for my blood." "Harris says it keeps things flowing," Emily frowned. "But you already take medication for that." He shrugged. "Maybe it's different." "I don't ask questions. He's the doctor." That word, doctor, suddenly felt heavier than before. Emily's smile faded. She'd always admired Dr. Harris too. But something in her gut felt wrong. Later that night, she couldn't sleep. She sat on the porch, watching fireflies dance above the yard, and thought of her mother's words. "Trust is beautiful, Emily, but it needs truth to stay alive." The next morning, Emily called the clinic. The nurse's voice was polite but cautious. "I'd like copies of my father's test results," Emily said firmly. The nurse hesitated. "Dr. Harris handles those personally. He doesn't release them without his approval, even to family." "Even to family." Emily hung up, heart pounding. The unease had turned to suspicion. Her father trusted the man completely. But what if that trust was being used? That question stayed with her. Heavy, cold, impossible to ignore. 2 days later, Emily drove to a nearby town to meet Dr. Patel, a young, kind-eyed physician who agreed to review her father's medical papers. She spread the receipts across the desk, her fingers trembling slightly. Dr. Patel scanned them silently, eyes narrowing at the long list of injections and charges. Then she looked up, her tone serious. "These injections, they're just saline." Emily blinked. "What do you mean?" "They contain water and salt." Nothing else. Emily felt her stomach drop. "You're saying he's been paying for fake treatments?" The doctor nodded softly. "I'm afraid so." Emily drove home in silence. The world outside looked the same. The trees, the streets, the sunlight. But everything felt colder. She parked outside the Maplewood clinic. Her hands gripped the steering wheel as tears welled up. How could someone so kind lie like this? She whispered. She wiped her eyes, took a deep breath, and stepped out of the car. The truth was waiting, and she was ready to face it, to be continued. The clinic smelled of antiseptic and coffee, the same comforting scent that had fooled a town for years. Dr. Harris sat at his desk, reading a file when Emily entered, her voice steady but trembling inside. "Emily," he said with a smile. "Good to see you. How's Walter?" "You tell me," she said, placing the papers on his desk, "because I've just learned those injections you've been giving him are nothing but saline." The smile vanished. Silence stretched between them like glass about to shatter. Finally, Harris sighed. "You don't understand." He needed to believe he was getting better. Emily stared at him, disbelief shaking her voice. "You charged him for fake medicine and called it care." "I gave him peace," he whispered. "Sometimes that's what people really need." "No," Emily said firmly. "People need truth. Not comfort built on lies." For a moment, the doctor looked years older. He leaned back, eyes distant, as if remembering all the faces he'd treated and all the lies he'd told himself. "You're right," he murmured. "It started small, a little reassurance here, a harmless lie there. But somewhere along the way, I forgot what honesty looked like." Emily gathered the papers. "It's not too late to remember." Then she walked out, not angry, but deeply sad. Sometimes the hardest part of truth isn't what we learn about others. It's what they make us learn about ourselves. That night, she told her father everything. Walter listened in silence. The ticking clock was the only sound in the room. When she finished, he whispered, "He was there when your mother passed." "I never thought," his voice cracked, "all those visits were lies." Emily squeezed his hand. "He cared, Dad." But in the wrong way, Walter wiped his eyes. Maybe kindness without truth isn't kindness at all. The next morning, Walter mailed a quiet letter to the medical board. No anger, just truth. Weeks later, the clinic door closed for good. Dr. Harris retired in silence, the same silence that once filled his waiting room. Walter often sat on his porch afterward, the sun warm on his face, whispering to himself, "I trusted him with my life, but at least now, I've taken it back." And somehow, that truth brought peace. Moral, trust is sacred. It's the bond between heart and truth. But when broken, it teaches us to see people as they are, not as we wish them to be. Because sometimes, the truth we uncover is the only cure we truly need. Thank you for listening to The Doctor's Secret. Share your story in the comments. Have you ever trusted someone who let you down? Subscribe for more true emotional stories about honesty, betrayal, and finding peace again. Until next time, stay kind, stay aware, and never stop seeking the truth.